Ring ring, it's time for the first Game of the Year Crossplay Conversations Spectacular for 2023. This is the show where we dive deep into the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host, Luke Lewis, and today I am joined by the Wii U Wonder Kid, Jacob McCourt.
Hi, there's no Wii U games on this list, sorry.
Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and find out. We have the Sneaker Savant, who is persevering through sickness to be here for Game of the Year. It's Joseph Hooper.
Hello, I have the suds today.
But you're here to fight, and you're going to bring the heat because you always do.
Yes. I'm wearing slides today. I'm not actually wearing shoes. You know, that's how you know.
Ooh.
Because I'm not wearing shoes.
Are you in the Gucci slides? Gucci slides.
I was gonna say I was wearing slides, but that would be a lie. I'm just wearing fuzzy socks.
Even better. Love it. And rounding out our quartet, special guest, Queen of the Cozy Game from the LukeWarmGames Podcast, it's Claire Helmberger. Hello.
Hey,
welcome. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good.
It's your first official episode. You were briefly on our PAX episode, but it's nice to have you on a formal episode. For those that have been following our content for a long time, this is our third time doing Game of the Year podcasts, if you count the ones we did the last 2 years on Lukewarm Games. So if you want to go check those out. But we're bringing some shenanigans. We're bringing some fun to celebrate the year that was 2023. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad to discuss. So it's going to be a 2-part episode. And in this first part, we're discussing our best of awards. So we have 14 categories that we're going to run through. Some are zany, some are fun, some are what you would expect. And we'll run through those and talk about some of our favorite games. And then in the finale, we will all share our personal top 10 lists. And then I will share a super top secret weighted top 10 list that is all 4 of our lists weighted and given assigned point values to determine what our Game of the Year for Crossplay Conversations is. So I'm very excited about this. This is my favorite podcast we do all year. How's everybody feeling? Are we ready to jump into our first category?
Absolutely.
Super ready.
All right, let's do this.
Yep.
Starting off with a new one, we have Best Gameplay Loop. The nominees are Swinging Around the City, Spider-Man 2, Fishin' and Dredge, Fishin/Restaurant Management and Dave the Diver, Daily Adventures in Pikmin 4, Spirit Jumping in Chia, Climbing and Finding Notes in Jusant, The Writer's Room in Alan Wake 2, Rhythm Combat and Hi-Fi Rush, Using the Gunbrella in Gunbrella, Collecting a Wonder Flower in Super Mario Wonder, and Reclaiming the Wasteland in Terra Nil. There's some bangers here.
I can jump in and start with one that
Sure.
I just wanted to get on the list just to give it its flowers.
Sure.
Gunbrella is a game that I picked up very late in the year, and it's from Doinksoft, which is not only an excellent name for a game studio, but also they make great games. Gato Roboto is one of my faves from the year it came out. They just understand character locomotion in a way that I wanted to call out. You know, you have an umbrella that's a gun that you essentially use to dash, but your dash can be diagonal, and then you can kind of float down from it. It can be straight up, it can be straight to the side, and it can be also used to block enemy fire or even parry enemy fire. So to me, I think it's fantastic. I don't know how many other folks have played the game. I wanted to give it its flowers, knowing that even for me, there's stuff on this list that I love more.
Yeah, I mean, I played the demo, and I agree with everything you said. I think that was one of the standout parts of Gunbrella was the fact that it was a gun and an umbrella, and it just felt so good. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to playing the full game last year, but I am looking forward to checking it out this year.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Love the demo. Want to play the full release. Looks really cool. I've also heard surprising things about the story and kind of where it goes throughout. So interested to see about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about 50% of the way through. It's a 4 to 5 hour game.
Nice.
And I think I wasn't expecting the huge screen size boss battles at times.
Cool.
And there is story, which is something that I'm sort of surprised given their pedigree. It's not that they don't that they do story poorly. It's not the thing you'd normally come to a Doinksoft game for.
Very fair. It's worth noting, too, at the top of this first category I didn't mention, but we're trying to whittle things down to an overall winner, and then we'll do one runner-up. So we're trying to whittle this down to 2, essentially. I can speak to one that I think in a similar place as you, Jacob. Like, I think it's pretty cool, but I don't know if it hangs with some of these because the category is best gameplay loop. But the one I'm going to talk about, I feel like more applies to a specific mechanic rather than like the continuing loop throughout it, which we'll talk about with some of these other games. But Spirit Jumping and Chia is very cool. I think it's the most unique and interesting thing that game does, aside from its awesome music and representation. But for those that aren't familiar, Chia is a very cute, very aesthetically pleasing open world game set in the Pacific island of New Caledonia. You go on this really cool adventure. It's kind of Zelda-esque in that you're climbing and using a stamina meter and different things to explore, but they have a physics-based mechanic called spirit jumping where you can possess objects or creatures in the game world. You can be a coconut and then roll all the way up the mountain. You can be a firework and then use that as like a projectile in combat. You can become a bird or a turtle and run around the island doing different things. And it's just really fun and clever, and I think it separates itself from a lot of other games in that same genre, but it's doing something unique. But I think some of these other titles we have on here are really more about the loop, where I think about like looking at Dave the Diver, like the loop of going fishing and then managing your restaurant and doing all those different types of mechanics, and you get stuck in it because you're engrossed in it so much. Like, I think something like that speaks to the category more than a mechanic based thing like Chia, but wanted to give it a shout out.
Yeah, I played through Chia, and I definitely loved like jumping into a bird and then, you know, letting your meter come back and then jumping into a rock and rolling like around the environment. I think for me, it's like that was the best part of Chia. If there was a 3-hour experience that just had that, this would be like one of my GOTYs for sure. I just think there are parts of Chia, not to disparage Chia, but like there are parts of it that are not as great as that part of it. It's for me, it's like music and the environment that they've, you know, built, that spirit jumping mechanic
For
make
sure.
this a fantastic game, and then the rest of it's maybe doesn't, you know, hold the same water.
I think that's fair. I think it can get its flowers in other categories that kind of apply to those things you mentioned.
Agree.
Just really quick, I don't know how we're gonna narrow this down to one game. So what I'm gonna do is make this even harder by adding another game.
Oh wow, love it.
I'll talk about 2-on-1 here.
Okay.
I wanted to quickly add, and you know what? I'm not gonna lie, I did forget what I was gonna add while I was saying that I was gonna add it. So I'm just gonna talk about Hi-Fi Rush really quick. Rhythm combat in that game is absolutely amazing. I think when you think about it as a loop, it really does enhance the entire game. It actually, I think, is the sole reason the entire game works the way it does. And I think it is a real testament because, one, it is a pretty unique loop. We don't really often see rhythm combat games anymore. And the way that it makes this game so approachable by taking the complexity out of memorizing combos and stuff like that and making it more of a listening pattern recognition exercise, I think really helped me personally as someone who does not like to download a bunch of like fighting game combos and stuff like that. Just like trying to remember what musical beat or pattern that this particular combo was on helped a lot. It's fantastic, and I think it is a not only like a clever way to, you know, instill some gameplay, but also like a really helpful tool to make the game more approachable. So shout out to Hi-Fi Rush, and I will come back to that other game once I remember it.
Love it.
Right on.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is dope. I adore that game. I think the combat is very cool. I don't know about it in this category though. Or maybe it's to say like that might be my like second runner up if we were picking 3, but I think I have others that I feel stronger about. Claire, where are you feeling on this category thus far?
So I only have one on this list, and I feel pretty strongly about it. I don't think it's going to be the one, and that's fair. But I'm not going to be like, well, we can take this off the list right now. And I put down Reclaiming the Wasteland in Terra Nil because it's just such an incredible loop. Terra Nil is a game where it's like a reverse city builder where you are given this wasteland where there is no wildlife, there's no plant growth, there's no water, and you are, or maybe there is, but it's polluted. You're cleaning the water, you're providing new water, you're growing new life, you're introducing wildlife, and you're basically making this a functioning ecosystem and then getting the heck out of there, removing all the man-made structures and letting it do its thing, letting it flourish without you. And I just think that's really powerful just like premise to begin with. On top of it being just super rewarding to watch your screen turn green, hear the music change as you reclaim the wasteland, and then it just feels so satisfying to get the heck out of there. And it at the end of each level, it like pans, and you get to see the little creatures living their lives, and the music plays, and you can just let that go on however long you want. It's just it's therapeutic, and it's just really cool. So I will champion Reclaiming the Wasteland in Terra Nil.
It's a great pick.
I love Terra Nil. I'm not spoiling my GOTY list. My GOTY list officially has 10, but I usually pick an 11th, and my 11th is Terra Nil. Just as you said, Claire, it's like not only is the last piece of it almost feel like a reverse power wash simulator, where you're like, instead of cleaning, you're like making the environment beautiful, but every step within that is like great. Is like building structures is fine, but then like adding more to the environment, changing the biomes, adding creatures to it, and then like cleaning up your mess is just like it's dopamine in such a cool way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of dopamine, can we talk about Spider-Man 2?
Hell yeah.
Because man, does swinging around the city feel good. I think the only knock I would give against this one is that it felt good in Miles Morales and Spider-Man 1 as well. But the addition of the wingsuit and the wind tunnels, and they did do a lot of cool things with traversal in that game. So, oh man, this is tough. This is a very tough category. Joseph, do you want to talk about the one you added on that is also very, very good?
Sure. The one that I forgot was basically how you discover language or you translate language in Chants of Sonar. Blew me away. Like, I guess I wasn't fully researched when I picked up the game. So to see that you talk to these people and you basically have this little journal that identifies every new word or language symbol that you come across in the world. And you can basically go in and type your own meaning over this world or over this word, and then it will start inputting your meaning into the place of like wherever you see that symbol. So
cool.
You can say, I think this word means beer or something, and it'll just start saying the word beer in the sentences or in the signs or whatever. And sometimes you'll be like, huh, that doesn't really make sense. I guess it isn't the word beer. And once you actually figure out what the word is, then you basically like unlock it permanently, and now you have that word in your repertoire for trying to understand what the rest of the language is. And yeah, I think like this was one of the most like exciting loops that I've played all year. Just like that thrill of trying to decipher this code from the very start of the game to the very end of the game never got old. I loved it. And I know not many people have played it here, so I'm not going to champion it that hard, but I think it was really, really awesome and way more exciting than I probably would have imagined going in.
Yeah,
That sounds really
I played
cool.
that one as well. I haven't finished it yet. I'm still working through it, but yeah, it's incredible. I think to Joseph's point, it's just it feels so elegant. And there are a couple other puzzle games that really resonated with me this year, but this is definitely close to the top, if not my number one puzzle game. And just so satisfying, so smart, so interesting, and it's such a broad mechanic, but they like rein it in a way that feels super approachable and doesn't feel overwhelming and lets you experiment. And then to Joseph's point, when it locks in and then you understand more of the context of the world and the story, like it's just really, really clever, and it's a very thoughtful game. So it definitely hangs here. I'm wondering. There's one more I want to definitely talk about, but I'm wondering if once we kind of touch on everything, if we should just check in what each of our number ones are to then narrow the scope of this. I wanted to chat a little bit about the writer's room in Alan Wake 2. That was one I added, and I think is one of the most impressive gameplay things that game does. So for folks that aren't familiar, in Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake is a writer who can control the story and the environments around him, and he has a mechanic where he goes back to his writer's room in a pause screen, and you can move essentially index cards around a felt board to impact the story. So you can change the setting, you can change who are interacting with the environment, the plot points essentially. And it's not as freewheeling, I think, as we all thought it was going to be going into the release of the game, but it's just such a cool mechanic to, without spoiling anything specifically, be in a subway station, change the index cards, and then the environment around you changes instantaneously. And from a technical level, it happens like at the drop of a hat, which is really, really cool. And so it adds to the puzzle solving, it adds to just the overall art direction and vibe and style of the game. It's really, really cool, and it's super unique. I've never seen another game interact with the environment in that way while also honoring the narrative. So it's very, very cool. But all of these are really good, so it's tough.
I was gonna say to that, like everything you said is true. I would say that if this mechanic was a more central part to the overall game, this would probably be my number one far and away. Like if we were able to use this mechanic maybe 2 to 3 times more, I think that would have been just like a brilliant use of this. And I really do hope it comes back maybe in future games or some other developers kind of adopt this somehow, because it was really, really cool.
For sure.
But yeah, it just was not in the game enough for me for how cool it was, unfortunately. But the moments that it is in there, great. Absolutely great.
And I think without digging into specific spoilers on our spoiler cast, we touch on Saga's mind place mechanic, which is the other 50% of the game. And I think for me, to your point, Joseph, that section isn't as strong as the writer's room. So as a whole package, I feel like some of these other games may be stronger as like a complete thing than that one mechanic.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I talk about the fishing games?
Yeah, please.
I think Dredge has a really fantastic fishing mechanic that is just like really easy to engage with. It's like you have a circular meter, and at points within the meter, you just sort of hit the button almost like in a rhythm-esque sort of way to catch the fish. It's just a cool little thing. I think that Dave the Diver as a loop is more compelling because like you dive, you get fish, you have like a certain weight that you can bring back. You bring them up to the surface after 2 dives. You manage a restaurant, you make sushi where you're like running back and forth, you're pouring beer, you're getting ice cream, you're, doing whatever. Between the 2 fishing games, if we're talking about gameplay loop, I think Dave the Diver is more compelling. It's literally a loop.
I think that's fair.
I agree.
And the level of depth, I think you really just can't argue. Like, I love Dredge. I maybe enjoyed Dredge as like a whole package more than Dave, not because of quality or depth, but just like overall vibe and style. But I think that one's great. I also realized we haven't talked about Pikmin
or Jusant.
Claire, you played both
Mario.
of those. Do you want to touch on?
Sure. I'm not the one who put these on the list, but I'll talk about them. I think that the daily adventures in Pikmin 4, especially as you get later in the game and you get to choose whether you go out and explore the world or you do the like Dandori battles or you are doing the like nighttime stuff, and then you can kind of pick your own adventure in that way. That I find really compelling because you can just do whatever you feel like doing most in the moment. And I really enjoyed this loop of Pikmin 4, but I don't necessarily know if it hangs with some of the other games that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think I was the one who put this on the list originally, and it's just so relaxing. Like, I just had a delightful time with Pikmin, and I never felt stressed playing Pikmin. I always felt like I was making progress. It's just a wonderful game, but I think in terms of like innovation, I think there are games that are doing more interesting things on this list.
Yeah.
Did you put Jusant, Claire?
No, I only put Terra Nil. That's the only one for me on this.
Did I put Jusant?
You probably did.
I probably put Jusant. Sorry, I made this doc 2 months ago, everybody. I was like ready to go. I can talk to Jusant. I find the climbing really compelling and really kind of therapeutic and satisfying and very tactile for folks that aren't familiar. This is a don't nod game, narrative based, where you're using the triggers of your controller to move your arms. So left and right are assigned to your arms, and it is very tactile as you're moving up this mountain, discovering notes of the people who were there previously and uncovering this story. It's a beautiful game. The visuals are awesome. I find it really relaxing, but I saw a different perspective over the holidays watching my dad play this one. I got him a Game Pass subscription, and so he gave this a go, and I thought he would find it really, in a similar way, relaxing. But he was really struggling with the mechanic, and he would fall, he would lose his stamina, he would then try to grab on and accidentally let go of the trigger. Like, he was having trouble with the mechanics of it, and so it felt kind of clunky to him.
Yeah.
So I think with that in mind, I think there are, I don't want to say more polished, because I think I found Jusant really polished, but I think as a universal thing, it's not clicking with everyone. So I feel like there's more universal picks here on this list, which doesn't necessarily have to be a factor. Like, this is our list. We can decide what we want. But if there was a knock I could give the game, it's like, well, my dad did not have a relaxing time playing that game, which I found interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of in the same camp as your dad.
Sure.
Like, I really struggled with Jusant. I actually reinstalled it, and I think I'm gonna make my way through. But I think it's just, there's something about the climbing that is just like, I almost expected something a little bit more fluid, where like this has a very deliberate, slow pace to it that like you're either gonna vibe with or you won't. And Luke, you did, I did not. Claire, I cut you off. Sorry.
Totally fair.
I if I hadn't heard your feedback, Jacob, or seen your dad play it, I never would have thought anyone would have had those sorts of problems, because when I was playing Jusant, I was just like on up the cliff, no problem at all. Sometimes it was like, okay, how do I get over there? Because I can't climb there, or like what? It's sort of puzzle solving. What do I need to do to make that an accessible area? And those sort of moments were like, I have to think about this a little bit, but it was never a mechanical issue. So I would have, if the category was most like compelling gameplay mechanic, I think that the climbing specifically would have been it for me. I do agree that there are other things on this list that are really strong. Jusant for me is like really high on my list. Once again, not to spoil anything, but I really loved exploring the world and uncovering the notes and stuff and figuring out what had happened. The world building, I think, is like super strong, and you know me, I love a game where there's a narrative that you have to figure out what happened by seeing what was left behind by other people, and like you're the only one there and you're not really interacting with other people. That sort of thing is just my jam. So I really love that aspect of Jusant. But I'm okay if it's not our number one or number two for this category.
For sure.
I just want to quickly say that I love that Claire was like, you know me, how I love this most specific type of game you could have possibly described. That was great.
That's a good like summation of players' game takes. I feel like if you like latch on to like mechanics, but then also just like styles and vibes, but they're very unique, like the games that resonate with you. So that's awesome. All right, I think last one is Super Mario.
Wonder?
Yeah, that was me. I put that on. I think it's just cool how Nintendo Super Mario Wonder is like the best 2D Mario game since the Super Nintendo. I think of the, new Super Mario Brothers games on DS, and how like these are just so much better because they have so much life in them, from like music and set pieces, and this Wonder Flower section where every single one of the levels has something different, where like you may become a blob, you may become a boulder with spikes, you may enter a musical number. Like there's just so much cool stuff that happens, like, and you never know what it's going to be when you pick up a Wonder Flower. So I just wanted to give Wonder their flowers by calling out that specifically.
Yeah, definitely.
It's dope. I love that Nintendo just got weird with it. They're like, let's do some weird shit. It's really fun. I don't know why. I guess we haven't finished it yet. We're still working our way through it, but like once I put that game down, I haven't been thinking about that game. Does that make sense? Like I don't feel like it got its hooks in me the same way that some of these other ones did. It's really good though, but
is it because we're playing it co-op? I'm playing it co-op with Amanda too. And I'm like, once we're done, I'm like, okay, yeah, we can take a rest. Oh, you played a co-op too?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what it is, but I also am not the biggest like 2D side-scrolling Mario fan. I've been on the record slandering the premise of those games, but I do really enjoy it. It's just like not as addicting to me as some other 3D Mario games in the past.
Yeah, I have some specific thoughts to the multiplayer angle of that one that I think we can get to in that category.
Can we just say them now? Because like I think we have the same thoughts.
I think the multiplayer, like they made the co-op less good than every other Mario. Like
local
the bubble
multiplayer
system and everything. Like we tried to play, we did 2 players, and if it had worked like the previous titles, we probably would have brought it home at the holidays and played with family. But after getting frustrated just playing the two of us because of the bubbling and stuff, and then I hate how it changes who's in control of the screen. Like there's no rhyme or reason, it feels like, and it just, I found it really frustrating. Once we kind of got the hang of like, okay, this is just kind of BS and we just have to understand that, it was more fun. But they kind of dropped the ball on what was a functioning good system previously. So
Yep.
Yeah, I think the local multiplayer is not good, but my understanding is the online multiplayer, if everyone has their own Switch and their own copy of the game, then they can sort of control their characters in isolation, and there's not that weird bubbling issue. Like, there's a world in my mind, I'm not a game designer, but in my mind, I wonder if the screen could be split if you decide to, like, you know, do your own thing.
That's what Claire and I were thinking, and I know that's kind of unusual for Mario, but
Lego Star Wars did it, and it was fine.
Lego Star Wars did it was fine, but I think about games like Rayman Legends, and like that's such a great experience, and there's so many like tight platforming levels where you're coordinating jumps, and I just feel like that works better. But I want to love this the multiplayer experience. Like we had a date night. It's like it's Mario date night, you know what I mean? And it just was kind of a letdown in that way. So
I just wonder if the Switch couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Is it bad that if, I guess our negative comments don't necessarily apply to this category, but if we have that many negative takes on it, does that make it not hang as much?
I think that the negative takes are about other things, but I think that there are other things on this list that are like better gameplay loops. So Luke, you suggested like 10 minutes ago.
This is first category, everybody. First category. No, we're good. Well, and this is, I feel like this category is going to take longer than some of our other ones too, because like this is the first time we're talking about a lot of these games, and we're talking about core mechanics and things.
Also, I think the one with the most nominees.
Yeah. So why don't we go around the horn and just everyone say what their number one selection would be, and we'll see if we have some general consensus, or at least whittling it down to a few picks. Okay. Claire, what are you thinking?
My number one is definitely Terra Nil.
Terra Nil. Okay. Jacob.
Dave the Diver.
Dave the Diver. Joseph.
Chance of Sonar.
It's okay if it's different.
I love all of these. For me personally, I would say Alan Wake, Writer's Room. I think for this group, for this list, I would be very comfortable with Dave the Diver and Chance of Sonar being our two.
Yeah.
I really like Terra Nil though, but I just love the language aspect of what they're doing with Chance of Sonar, and they make it so elegant and approachable that I think it deserves the spot. Like I think if we had all played it, we would be championing that more. But I also think to the overall spirit of the category, Dave the Diver makes a lot of sense to me because it's such a good loop. Like I lost so many hours over our vacation just like in that addictive fun loop.
Hey, surprise, the gacha people know how to make good gameplay loops that don't involve gacha mechanics.
The little indie, not indie that could. Okay, so I think we have it narrowed down to, do we just want to go with that, or do we want to narrow it down a little more?
Because I think like Terra Nil's very good.
I do too.
So are we like Dave the Diver, Terra Nil, Dave the Diver, Chance of Sonar?
I would say, just because I haven't played Chance of Sonar, for me, between the two, Dave the Diver has a really compelling loop.
Why don't?
But
I think in the past we've had two runners up. Should we just have an overall winner and two runners up? Just to highlight a couple of these? Does that seem reasonable? Okay.
Fireworks.
Whoa.
What the
Did you trigger that?
So, what's our overall winner?
I think Dave the Diver.
Dave the Diver?
Yeah.
Because we all played it. We all loved it. Feel good about that? Okay. Yeah. Locking that in. I'm going to highlight
Dave the Diver definitely got its hooks.
Okay, we'll do winner in yellow on this doc. Video listeners, you can follow along with the doc if you like with our nonsense. It's kind of fun. And then we do Chance of Sonar.
Pink.
Yeah, why not? And
Terra Nil is right above Chance of Sonar.
It's right above it.
Right above it.
Thank you.
Man, that's a vibrant color.
Here, maybe
we did blue last year.
Yeah, let's mellow that out a little bit. How about that's better?
That's better.
Okay. So, for best gameplay loop, our overall winner is Fishing and Restaurant Management and Dave the Diver, with the runners-up being Reclaiming the Wasteland and Terra Nil and Discovering Language in Chants of Sonar. Cool.
Hell yeah.
Love that.
Awesome.
Next up, we have Most Pleasant Surprise. Claire, do you want to read our nominees?
Sure. For Most Pleasant Surprise, the nominees are Hi-Fi Rush, Pikmin 4, Dave the Diver, Jasant, Dredge, Super 56, and RoboCop Rogue City.
Let's go. Who wants to kick this one off?
Let's go about RoboCop Rogue City.
Should I talk about
RoboCop?
Let's talk about RoboCop, everybody. A game that had no right being as good as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I played this one for the first time during a Steam Next Fest over the summer. Loved the demo. For folks that have no idea about the game, it's essentially an 80s action movie RoboCop adaptation into a Fallout style action RPG. The shooting feels really, really solid. It's very satisfying to pull off headshots in the game. They use the RoboCop classic like UI where you're detecting things and scanning things, and there's hilarious little references to the movie, but it's really actually very well made. It looks quite good. The facial capture is pretty solid. The writing is serviceable, and it's just been a while since we had a licensed game that like filled this like double A kind of B movie vibe, and I just really had a blast with it. I'm like 2/3 of the way through the final game, just really, really enjoying the heck out of it. It's really funny. It's so dumb, it's just, but from a quality perspective on paper, it's just like, there's no way that in 2023 a RoboCop game is going to be good. And I just thought this game was an absolute blast. Highly recommend, folks, if you enjoy that era of movies or if you enjoy RoboCop, like, it's really, really fun.
It seems like the most solid 7.5 you could ever play.
Oh yeah, but it's like 7.5 good. Like,
yeah, 7.5
this
good.
is such a fun weekend, and so can't recommend it enough. I don't think it's of the same quality as most of these other titles, but wanted to give it an honorable shout out nonetheless.
But
so I'm comfortable cutting it after I've given it.
Is the spirit of the category, though, how big the gap is in between how bad you thought it was going to be and how good it actually was?
That's fair. So maybe it potentially does hang, because I expected it to be absolute trash, and it was pretty awesome, like quite good. Or this could have been easily a game that I saw being a 2 out of 10 on IGN in an alternate scenario, and it wasn't.
Or is the category more like what came out of nowhere? Because if that's the case, then it's like Hi-Fi Rush was shadow dropped with no warning, and that's one of my favorite games of the year.
I think that
I think it could go either way.
Sense for this
I think it could,
because it did come out of nowhere and it was so good. I mean, I've heard.
They were like, "Hey, this game we've been working on for years. You can just play it today." And the rhythm mechanics we talked about earlier, but just like the charm, and the storytelling in this one are surprisingly good, and it like harkens back to like the old, character action games, 3D platformers we would get back in like the PS2 era. I'm just so glad it exists, truly.
And such a genre surprise too for that studio. Like, it just was not the game I remotely expected from Tango Gameworks, but I loved it.
Agree.
Yeah, I think for all of those reasons, Hi-Fi Rush is probably my pick for this, just because, I think the biggest part of this is that it came out of nowhere, literally nowhere, and we could play it the day we learned about it. But not only that, but it was extremely polished, coming out of like a AAA studio, which is not often the case. The launch was basically flawless. I didn't hear about any bugs or anything. And it was a genuinely unique game. It wasn't like a cookie cutter or anything like that. It was something that we hadn't seen pretty much ever, or at least not in the last decade or so. So I think that is definitely a testament to this game and its release. The close second for me would be Dave the Diver, because not only did I not really ever expect that game to be good, I just kind of saw a trailer and was like, whoa, this looks kind of crazy. I played it, and it was even crazier than the trailer could convey to me. Like, the amount of like different random mini games they have in there, the amount of random characters, like there's a whole like rhythm game section within that as well. I mean, it's just like the surprises never stop in Dave the Diver. So it's kind of hard for me to vote against it, but dang, Hi-Fi Rush was so good.
I'm glad you brought up like the gameplay surprises in Dave the Diver, because they just kept introducing mechanics of like, I'm managing a sushi restaurant's social media page right now, but I'm also like having these crazy boss fights, and just like they play around with variety so much. Of like, that game was a lot longer than I expected, and that's why I still haven't finished it. But that said, they do keep that loop very compelling and keep introducing new layers in a pretty approachable way, I'd say, at like a reasonable clip. And so I never felt like anything got stale, and I was constantly surprised at just like the tone and the quality and the variety in that one.
There are stealth missions in that one.
I didn't get to that. That's cool.
Just wait, Luke, it's coming.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's awesome. Jacob, do you want to talk about Super 56?
I was just about to ask if I could talk about that. Super 56 is kind of like a WarioWare title, where like each game is a micro game, so there are 56 micro games, and they all involve hitting one button. So they'll, much like WarioWare, they'll give you an action, they'll give you a scenario, and then you have anywhere from like 8 to 1 minute to like beat the actual micro game. It's wrapped around this like really weird story about like workers in hell trying to beat the Super 56 game in the game before their neighbor does. It's wild and weird, and it very much like a game that was absolutely not on my radar until I started to hear a little bit about it from our friends and colleagues, and said, hey, you know what, this game's wild, big surprise, liked it a lot. Nice. Super 56, just a game I wanted to shout out in this category.
Heck yeah.
Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
That sounds cool.
Claire, do you want to talk about? Did you put it?
I'll talk about.
I
actually didn't put anything on this list because by the time
I get thrown off because I know you played a lot of these, but
But I'll talk about Jason because I would have put Jason if it hadn't been on the list already. And same with Pikmin 4. For Jason, actually I probably wouldn't have put it on this list because it wasn't a surprise. From the first trailer I saw, I was like, this looks awesome, and I think I'm gonna love it. And then I did the almost exact same amount as I expected. So, but it is a really cool game, and if it's not on your radar, it should be. So I'll just say that. Maybe it'll be a surprise for you, random listener. I will talk about Pikmin 4 though, because I've always thought, Pikmin, oh, that looks cute. I don't know if it's my jam.
Same.
And I've heard that Pikmin 4 is like not super different, but it does things a little bit differently than previous entries that makes it more approachable. And I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, and it's actually kind of consumed my life the past couple weeks. So definitely a surprise on that front for me with Pikmin 4.
Totally. Talk about a game that like every time we saw a trailer for it during a Nintendo event, I could have cared less.
Yep,
I was
same.
like, I'm not at all excited for this. I've never played a Pikmin game. It doesn't really look like my jam. I like RTS, but folks are like, well, this isn't really an RTS. I'm like, well, I'm confused what this is. And so there was a lot of positive buzz around Pikmin 4, so I jumped in, and just what a damn pleasant surprise. And in a year where we had a lot of great Nintendo games, like this was 100% one of the best, and great gameplay loop, relaxing. Ochi's my boy, best boy. Riding the dog around, solving puzzles. I also like. I feel like it's a weird Nintendo game, and I like when Nintendo gets weird like B-side album vibes. But that was Pikmin, where you're like digging up old Game Boy cartridges and carrying them back to your ship, and you're like, what is this weird little game that kind of has Wall-E Pixar movie energy, and it's just wacky and wild and fun and relaxing, and I never stressed out playing it. And I'm gonna keep saying that because that's a big thing to just like totally just like be like chill you out and keep you engaged.
I feel like Miyamoto, although I believe he's not directly involved in the development of this one, I feel like this is just his like sicko little side project that he only wants Pikmin to, like, for the rest of his life, if he only did Pikmin, he'd be very happy.
Yeah, I think about friend of the show Jesse Vitelli's catchphrase of weird little guys or weird little sickos, and it's like Pikmin are weird little sickos, but I love moving them around and carrying stuff. We didn't talk about Dredge yet, and I do love Dredge, but in context of this category, I don't know if it hangs because there was a lot of positive buzz from folks I trust going into it, and so I think I expected to love it, and then I did. But I don't know if it surprised me in the same way as these other games.
Yeah, I think Dave blew the doors off in like our circles, and then Dredge was just like, "Hey, this is a really cool video game.
It's really solid, yeah."
Yeah.
I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't give the overall award to Hi-Fi Rush. I just feel like it's the definition of surprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
For this group.
Agree.
I know you haven't played it yet, Claire, but I do think you would feel that way about it if you did.
Makes sense. Probably. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Locking it in. Hi-Fi Rush is our most pleasant surprise. Runners up.
Seems like
what are we
it's
feeling
Dave the
strong
Diver,
about?
y'all. That's
Dave
what
the
we've all
Diver.
talked about.
Dave the Diver. Just for funsies, can we do Dave the Diver and RoboCop? Because I feel like that represents a fun spectrum of like really high quality game that we all loved, and then the outlier weird one that's like has no business being this good. I think is kind of fun.
I'm into it.
Okay, we good with that? Joseph, how do you feel?
Let's do it.
Okay, we're doing it. Love it. All right, I made it the wrong blue, but I'll fix it momentarily. All right. Our most pleasant surprise goes to Hi-Fi Rush with winners Dave the Diver and RoboCop Rogue City. Awesome. Next up, we have most underrated game. Our nominees are Baccarat, On Guard, Chia, Terra Nil, Varney Lake, World of Horror, and Chance of Sonar. Who wants to kick this one off?
I can kick it off and talk about World of Horror, which hit 1.0 this year. It's essentially like a 1-bit adventure game inspired by Japanese folklore somewhat. So essentially like the world is ending in each of your runs because also it's a roguelite. And you essentially have to do like PC adventure game stuff that are essentially like within a run, you have to beat 5 mysteries. There are 20 mysteries total in the game. Each of the specific mysteries, there are like anywhere from 3 to 6 endings in those. And you just have to get to the end of each of those mysteries and then sort of beat a final boss that is about to like create or destroy the world, all while having like a doom gauge slowly like run while you're like, oh no, the game is ending, but you can also be killed at any time. Some of the stuff that happens is surprising in this one. Like at one point you can get a mask that like will slight spoilers for World of Horror, that like you take it off and then oops, my face is gone. There's a lot of body horror in this one, and I'm not usually a body horror guy, but essentially one person did all the art for this game in MS Paint. So like I think just that in itself, that one person made this game over many years, it's a game that more people should be talking about. And I think that if you want to pick it up on PC, like that is the ideal way to play it. There's just so much content in this game, so much writing, so much like grotesque art, so many different scenarios you can go through. Eastbird Games is the publisher, and they just have like such a knack for picking games. They're publishing Demon School. They've published this game, and I just want more people to play and talk about World of Horror because I think it's just badass. World of Horror.
Sounds cool.
Very good pick. Sorry, I was in the background
putting our
going
screen up.
Screen capture because I forgot that I hadn't been doing that this whole time, and I'll fix it in post, but it's fine. Yeah, that game sounds really cool. I would like to play it at some point. To all of these games, I think for the most part, like I think with the exception of Chia, Terra Nil, and Chance of Sonar, I've heard next to nothing in terms of like industry chatter and internet discussion. I want to talk about On Guard because I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that played this one. I reviewed it. It's really, really delightful. It is an action swordplay game. It has a really vibrant cartoonish art style. It feels like the best, like, it feels like a cartoon I would have watched as a kid, with swashbuckling, pirate, swordplay combat. It's really satisfying to pull off parries. It kind of reminds me of Sifu in that way, if you're moving through environments and fighting hordes of enemies, but then you can like pick up flower pots and things and throw them at enemies. At one point you're in a banquet hall and you can pick up a roast turkey, throw it on a guy's head to stun him, you kick him off. There's a great kick in the game. Like it's just a very satisfying gameplay loop. And I remember seeing this one during I want to say a Wholesome Games event, but it's just a charming game. The story is fun. It's breezy. It's not terribly long. I think I finished around 4 or 5 hours. It's a nice length. And then there's a replayable kind of arena based mode that you can do if you want to kind of play around with different multipliers and different things and just enjoy the combat, because the combat is really, really good and it is worth playing. And I've heard next to no one talk about this game, but it's very fun.
Yeah, this one I've been wanting to get around to playing, and it's looked very fun in the trailer. So I'm glad to see that you had some. Did you beat it, or did you just get your turn?
I did beat it. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 hours. It's a good like weekend game for sure.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
And I think it's only available on Steam at this time, so worth noting, but 100% worth playing. Claire, can you tell us about Baccarat? You and I played this together, and once again, I've heard next to no one talk about this game outside of us.
Yeah, I think I read like one article about it from some like random small.
It's so good though.
Mm-hmm. It is so good. We discovered this actually like basically right after it came out, I think, which we didn't realize at the time. And we took a really big break, so we just finished it. But Baccarat is one of these 2-person co-op games where it's like mandatory co-op and you have to be doing it together. Mm-hmm. But you have to be on separate consoles or separate systems, whatever, separate screens, because you can't see what the other person is seeing. And then there gets to a point in the game pretty early on where what each person sees is different than what the other person sees. And so you're kind of platforming and puzzle solving through the world to try to get to the objective and not die. And there's, challenges that you face that are going to kill you in somewhat gruesome ways. And what you see is just vastly different. And that is so interesting. And it's executed so well in the game. Like it feels really polished, and we didn't really have any bugs or issues with the game like not working, or like it wasn't floaty at all. The platforming was really solid. And that's, don't take that for granted either. But the story was really interesting and just weird, where it's like these 2 little boys and they're, have different leases on life. They walk different worlds, and it's like a commentary on like what poverty and like being a child of divorce and like all these things do to you like psychologically. I feel like but through a child's
way more
eye,
mature. Yeah, than I thought it was going to be. Like it has some deep themes.
There's like murder, and there is some like weird body stuff going on too, where there's like a brain monster with multiple eyeballs that eats people. And there's thanks. There's like a house made out of like, and there's like a house of horrors where this guy is like making a Frankenstein's monster type situation going on. There's like a mechanic later in the game where like a dog's, depending on which player you are, a dog's spine will just come out of its body. Like,
I don't know if you should say much more, because I think kind of unfolding surprises of what the game actually ends up being is half the fun.
I won't say anymore.
No, you're all good though.
I think those are all things that are like, there's, if you do a Google search, you'll come up with images of these things and whatnot. But totally. Yeah, I probably said a little bit too much.
No, you're fine.
Anyway, it's really cool.
I would just add too that I think it does such a good job with the multiplayer, and I think any game that forces you to communicate with your co-op partner in an authentic way is very interesting. I believe there is a buddy pass for this one, so if you buy 1 copy of the game on Steam, you'll get a code for your friend to play it.
Isn't that what we did?
It's only like $5, but there is the note of you do have to have two computers to play it independently. Claire played on our laptop in the same room with me, but you could play it online multiplayer as well. But yeah, it just, what a surprise. What an interesting game. What a weird game. Different than what I expected, but really quality. And I'm glad we got a chance to play it.
I'm about to check that out because I played The Past Within this year, which is like a similar thing where you need 2 copies of the game. You have to buy them full price. It's like, I don't know, between $5 and $10 each. And they're not tied together, but the story happens in such a way that like you don't need to be connected. But in order to get through, side A's, story, you need things out of side B. So you literally can't advance in one until you do things in the other. So if you're saying it's sort of like that, like I'm in.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
It is. Yeah, a little bit more cooperative. Like you have to talk to each other to solve the puzzle on the platform. Like Luke will be like, "Jump now," and then I'll jump or whatever. Like you have to talk each other through it. So, but it's really cool.
Joseph, you chatted about Chance of Sonar. I think I was the one who added that one to this list, but it definitely belongs in this category, and it's very good. And
yeah, I mean, I think it probably should have been in the discussion for Indie Game of the Year. I enjoyed it that much. And it wasn't, the only thing was I didn't really play it until like the last few weeks of December. So I just had no clue how fun it was. But yeah, like this definitely feels like one of those Inscription level surprises where you're like, oh wow, this game that might have looked weird in the beginning is actually really, really incredible. So yeah, like I know a couple people have, talked about how great it was. Like a few people have tried it and praised it, but definitely I think in the greater sphere of gaming, I think it definitely needs a lot more praise.
Agreed. Jacob, do you want to talk about Varney Lake?
Yeah, Varney Lake is published by Chorus Worldwide, and it's part of the Pixel Pulp series of little PC adventure games. Think that it's 2 timelines. One where you're in 1954 and you're just like enjoying summer with your pals, and then oops, you discover a vampire, and the vampire becomes your pal. And then there's this other storyline of, in the 80s, characters from that storyline in 54 just like going through the consequences of the things that happened that summer. It's 2 hours. It's got, again, very much like the World of Horror, not quite 1 bit, but it's got like an old school PC adventure, like pastel to it. I just think it's rad. And again, more people need to check out the series. There's 3 games in this Pixel Pulp series. Mothman 1966. And then they have a new one that literally just came out last month called, I think it's called Bonson Nights. And that one is very like, it's about cults, but it's got like I don't want to say cyberpunk, but it's got like the color scheme of like synthwave music, like your pinks and your purples and your oranges. So it's one that I literally have a code for now, and I'm excited to check out. But again, a game I just want to like call out to say like Varney Lake is rad. The series is rad. Please play them.
That sounds awesome.
Sounds cool.
I also love a good 2-hour game, so that sounds like a nice vibe.
More short games, thanks.
Yeah, agreed. Claire, shall we talk about Terra Nil in the context of this one?
Sure. I mean, I love Terra Nil. I've talked about why. I felt like it did get some buzz, though. I don't think it was like nobody was talking about it, but maybe that's just because I was like actively seeking out content about it. I definitely think it needs to be on people's radar because it is that, once again, that like really interesting commentary on how we interact with the environment. And I think it's really important in this time that we're in right now with like climate change going on and how we're at like a crucial breaking point in that. I think that it like is really important in like that greater cultural context. So if it's not on your radar, it should be. But I do, once again, I think it got some buzz. So I'm not necessarily sure it hangs with some of these other games that like literally no one is talking about, but that are so cool.
To that note, I would say I think we can cut Chia from this category. As much as I love it, I do feel like it got its flowers. I felt like it was shouted out with the Game Awards win for best
Games
impact.
for Impact.
Games for Impact is the category. Thank you. And I feel like there was a good buzz around the review embargo. We chatted about it on Lukewarm Games extensively. I put out a written review. I know a lot of other folks played it. It's really a solid game, and I think there's a lot of wonderful things to celebrate about it, but I do think it was like appropriately discussed, if that is fair.
Agreed.
Okay, do we want to, let's go around the horn and do a number one check-in. I think I have a rough idea of where folks are at. I think for me, I'd probably go Baccarat.
Yeah, me too.
As a game that I think no one talked about that deserves to be in conversation. Joseph, where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously the only one I've played is Chances of Sonar, but I was gonna say, based off of the pitch Claire gave about the dog with a spine coming out, and the
it's so weird,
and the images I'm seeing, like on Google Images, that was a very compelling pitch for me.
Okay.
So, I mean, you've definitely, it's hard for me to say it's underrated, but you've definitely piqued my interest. So,
okay,
I wouldn't be against that one.
Right on. Jacob, how about for you?
I'm World of Horror, but I think that if the category, based on your explanation, was Baccarat and then the runner-up was Chances Sonar, I'd be happy.
Makes sense to me. Do we want a second runner-up?
Make World of Horror second runner-up.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, I think it sounds really cool. Well. Yeah, let's do it.
I was just changing the format to 2 runner-ups per category.
I feel like we actually did that last year, and I changed it by making it 1. Mid I didn't like consciously do it. I was just like, maybe we should narrow it down a little bit. Okay, so for most underrated game, our overall winner is Baccarat, with the runners up being World of Horror and Chance of Sonar.
Cool.
Very nice.
Very good.
Next up, we have Claire. You have introduced this category into our lives, and it's a fun one. Do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, this is my category. This is Best Little Buddy. Best Creature Companion.
Yes.
So we are nominating the creature companions from the game. And I think I can pronounce all these. Okay, so we have Mui from Planet of Lana, the Ballast from Jasant, Oachi from Pikmin 4, Peppermint the Cat from Hi-Fi Rush, Torgal from Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man, the Bodega Cat. Oh no, because it is Spider-Man, right?
The cat is named Spider-Man.
The Bodega Cat from the Spider-Man. From Spider-Man 2. Bread and Fred from Bread and Fred, and Scratch from Baldur's Gate 3.
This is a good list.
Yeah,
this is a good list of folks.
Can I talk about one that I think immediately, like, maybe doesn't fit the mold of the category, and that's Bread and Fred. My thought was like,
they're not companions.
They're not.
They're companions to each other.
Yeah. And if you're playing, one player, so if you're playing single player, there's actually a version where there's a rock is your companion. But my thought was that's like, funny. Hey, if I'm playing as Bread, my companion is Fred. But I think based on the definition of the category, like, it doesn't really fit as much as Bread and Fred is like a hard, cool platformer to play with.
It was supposed to be like not a
playable thing,
or like anthropomorphic animals don't count, but like specifically this is an animal or animal like thing that does not really like talk or
and
have a personality. I think it's like a cat basically. It's a cat or a dog.
I think you added the best creature companion stipulation because I wanted to put Garl from Sea of Stars in here because he is best little buddy, but
and I was like,
it doesn't hang count. With the definition of the category. I can kick things off for this one. I want to talk about Ochi from Pikmin 4. I think aside from just being a delightful creature companion, I think he actively makes the game more fun and easy to maneuver around the environments. You can train him so he gets leveled up and stronger. He's great in combat. Like there's so many layers to the gameplay that he just enhances. And he's a good boy. He's a good buddy. You can pet him. You can give him treats.
And then you can gulp treasure.
Can you pet? I think you can pet him. Am I tripping?
Not sure.
Maybe not. Maybe you can't pet him.
Don't remember.
I'm just misremembering. I feel like there's a cutscene where your character pets it. Maybe you can't like in-game stop and click B to pet him, but I think petting does happen.
Ride him.
You can ride him. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's a whole mechanic to it. But that's probably my front runner. but there are some other compelling ones. Shout out to Bodega Cat. You love to see it. Wonderful. You unlock the costume. You can swing around the city with the cat as a cat dad. Love it.
All right, I'm just gonna quickly say this. Ochi, a little bit of uncanny valley going on there, right? Like
in terms of proportion, or
eyes
what's
are
the?
too human.
His eyes
That's
don't
fair.
look right on this like thing that he is. It's kind of scary.
When there's like one specific angle where he's like kind of doing the like side eye emoji thing where he's like looking at the corner of his eye, and I'm like, that's a little weird. But but he's a good dog, you know. Good.
I think I like
Ochi
Ochi more from like a practicality gameplay perspective than
That's
I
fair.
am like, I want you to come home and be my friend, my pet.
Looking at these images on Google Images, it's like one of those things where you're sleeping at night and you see the two eyes and you're like, oh shoot, he's here. And you turn the light on and it's like two hangers or something weird like that. So
they for
shout
sure
out to
put
Ochi,
googly
I
eyes on
guess.
this boy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did.
That's really funny.
Do you want to talk about Scratch?
Yeah, sure. Scratch is, he's a good guy. Scratch is a good buddy. I'll give light spoilers. In very early in Baldur's Gate, come across a dog next to a dead body, and basically you need to have this specific spell, or one of your characters needs to have this specific spell to talk to animals. And then you can talk to the dog, and the dog is like, hey, get away from here. I'm just waiting for my owner to wake up. And you're like, oh, this is sad. And you're like, well, you can either tell him, hey, your owner's not waking up, buddy. Or you can say, hey, well, if that doesn't work out, you can come to our camp and hang out with us if he doesn't wake up. So best of luck to you. And that's what I did. And I didn't want to crush his little dog dreams. So I said, hey, man, like, if your owner's not okay, come meet us at the camp. And the dog met us at the camp. He was like, hey, you guys are right. Thank you for being kind to me. And now he just brings me stuff whenever I go back to camp. He's just a nice little boy, and you can pet him. And whenever you pet him, other people in the camp look at you while you're petting him, and you get some little companion points for petting.
Oh,
so
I like that.
But
does he
and
talk?
You can actually,
does this dog speak?
He only speaks to you if you have the speak to animals.
Oh my god!
Spell or ability. Excellent. You can talk to him.
I like that.
If you don't, he
that
just
is cool.
barks. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that adds another layer to this that I think is pretty compelling.
Yeah, Scratch has some lore. I haven't finished the game, obviously, so I don't know if his lore goes any deeper. And I'm too afraid to take him outside of the camp with me because I don't want him to get killed. So he's just at camp with me.
That's fair. Claire, do you want to talk about your noms for this one?
Sure. I put Mui from Planet of Lana, who's this adorable little cat-like creature, inspiration for the category. And
category.
Yes. So Planet of Lana is set on like an Earth-like planet. And I haven't talked about Planet of Lana yet, so I guess I'll just give the pitch. The art style is what grabbed me first of all, because the backgrounds are like hand painted. It's like a Studio Ghibli movie. It's beautiful. You are playing as Lana, this little girl who is trying to get to her sister, who has been kidnapped by these like invading alien robot things. And so Mui is your creature companion, and the game is basically a puzzle solving platformer, and Mui helps you solve the puzzles. So you have to command Mui to go do X, Y, or Z to help you solve the puzzle and get through the area and keep moving. Or defeat monsters and beasts and robots, or just get past them who are trying to do you harm. But Mui is adorable. It makes little sounds. I can't remember if you can pet Mui, but I think you can. And their like relationship grows throughout the game, and I won't spoil anything, but it does tug on your heartstrings a bit as you get further into the game. And like I saw someone is like making like crocheted Muis and selling them on Etsy, and I was like, I might get one because they're super cute. So I think Mui is just like 10 out of 10 creature companion. Adorable,
+1
functional. Yeah.
I would agree. I think that's a strong contender for this one. I feel like if it was the inception for the category, that says something. about the significance, or at least how much it resonated with you, for sure. Joseph, Jacob, as folks who have finished Final Fantasy 16, does Torgal get like more significant? Because where I'm at, it's just like he's a nice dog. He's a good dog.
Torgal made me cry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Torgal did not make me cry. All right,
canceled out. Okay,
yeah,
no, I'm kidding.
So there's a side mission, and like that means you have to like get highly invested in like going through every side mission. But there's essentially a side mission that just shows you in great detail how much loyalty Torgal had towards you. That essentially like this is like baby spoilers for Final Fantasy 16.
It's fine.
That essentially
for me at least.
He went back to the place where he thought you may have perished and like started collecting items that were yours and like put them in a place. Oh god, I'm even like starting to like get sad thinking about it. That like put them in a place that was really significant to both of you. So like that just shows to me that like Torgal is a loyal, good boy. And in addition, he just becomes like a very powerful companion in the end to you. So that's why like Torgal to me is my goodest boy.
Well, I will say I did not see that cutscene. That is not anything against Torgal. That is more against the game itself and the side missions. My biggest experience with Torgal is that he does become very powerful at a point in the game, and they just never talk about that again. And that's why I'm like, I need to know more about Torgal. Maybe it was in a side mission that I did not see. I don't know, but Torgal has some mysteries that I need uncovered. All right,
fair. I think my only argument against Torgal would just be that if that happened in a side mission, a majority of the side missions I played in 16 were not compelling to me whatsoever. And that's not saying that your perspective is totally valid, Jacob, but it just like, if the game didn't encourage me to keep going down the rabbit hole of side missions, I feel like, you know what I mean? I want to weigh your emotions into this, though, because I think it, you know, for me personally, I want to get back to it at some point, but I just don't feel compelled. But I feel more compelled hearing your passion.
Just watch a cutscene. So. I could have also your chocobo in this one. What is the name of your chocobo in Final Fantasy 16?
Couldn't tell you.
Who you're talking about? I know who you're talking about though. People liked him too.
Yeah, your chocobo in FF16. I'll get the name. It just is escaping me at the moment. Like, there's also a moment in that one that there's 2 times in Final Fantasy 16 where I cried, and it was both animal stuff.
Joshua.
I think the only other one we haven't talked about is Peppermint from Hi-Fi Rush.
Cool cat.
Yeah,
cool cat. Yeah, I think that kind of yeah.
He's technically a robot, so
right.
Does he get disqualified for that? But he is funny. I do like Peppermint.
I threw him on there because I was like, it's a fun character. Yeah, I don't know if it hangs with our passion for some of these. We didn't talk about the Ballast from Jusant. Cute
little guy.
Very cute.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Significant in the end.
Their role is significant in the overall narrative, but like moment to moment, it's.
Are we the only 2 who have finished Jusant?
I think so, because you didn't play Jusant, Joseph, did you? Or finish it?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Yeah. So it's just the 2 of us. Claire, since you were the arbiter for this category, what's in the conversation?
It sounds like we're really. I'm obviously gonna champion Mui from Planet of Lana, but it sounds like we're really into Torgal and Scratch. Those are the ones who have had compelling pitches. I feel like.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think
honestly,
that's
I would
our
also.
3. Oh, go ahead, Joseph.
I would say, Scratch is great, but Scratch stays at camp, so my vote would not be for Scratch.
Not a companion.
Even though he does have a. Yeah, he's not really companioning me. He's more like, guy at camp.
But are you choosing, in the spirit of Baldur's Gate, are you choosing not to do that and have the animal skill where you're talking to him?
That's true.
I do think it's kind of cool that you have the option to make him like a fully fleshed out, like speaking companion.
That is true. I'm gonna have to. I'm telling you guys, I am deathly scared of taking this guy out of camp because who knows, this guy gets caught by a stray arrow and then I'll just be devastated. All right. So I mean, just from my experience,
Sure.
Scratch is not
okay.
a companion.
You're the Baldur's Gate representative on this panel here, so I'll defer to you.
But I was gonna say I did play Planet of Lana. I didn't finish it, but I did play, and I do like Mui. Mui is very cute as well, so I would put some power behind
Mui's a cool-looking cat.
I think that's fair.
Cat or cat thing?
Cat-like creature?
Cat-like creature. Okay, love it. Okay, so are we feeling Mui overall winner?
Mui. Yeah.
I think we're feeling Mui.
Mui, let's do it. And then we got runners up.
Torgal?
Yeah,
I think Jacob's pitch was
yeah.
compelling. Yeah, I think let's do it.
Hell yeah, crying is great.
Crying is great.
Don't be afraid to show your emotions.
And then I think for me, the most compelling argument, I know you didn't take him out at camp, Joseph, but I think Scratch is a compelling second runner-up.
Show Scratch love. Scratch is a great and loyal boy.
Let's do it.
I'm curious, Strawpool, I guess, did you all play Skyrim and have the thing where you find the dead guy's dog? It's a very similar setup. You find the dead guy's dog and then he follows you around, except for that you can't really leave him places and he will just randomly follow you, but he won't fast travel with you, so you'll fast travel across the world and then he'll try to catch up to you and get killed by a wolf along the way and you won't know it until you're and then you're what the heck just happened? And you just have to go find the dog and load a last save so he's still alive.
I don't remember this at all.
I did not remember that either.
Okay.
I didn't play Skyrim.
Dog meat.
Really?
Dog meat from Fallout 3.
Wow.
That's
that's kind of crazy, Jacob.
That's kind of more
get,
wild than you're not playing Spider-Man until this year thing. That's interesting.
I'm not going to lie, Jacob, you shouldn't have said that. You should take it back right now.
Sorry, my gamer card is now revoked. I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're off the pod. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we'll
sorry,
see
guys.
Another time. No, it's okay.
Well, the good news is you can play it literally on any system.
You have an Amazon Echo.
Boot up your refrigerator. Go play it on your refrigerator.
All right. Let's head into Best Fishin'. Our nominees are Dredge, Dave the Diver, and Sea of Stars.
I have an immediate complaint, all right? I have an immediate complaint.
Is it because I put Sea of Stars on this list?
It is because you put Sea of Stars on this list. Sea of Stars, they hyped up this fishing for years, all right? They say, yeah, our RPG is great, plus it has fishing, all right? I boot this game up. I'm so excited. I find the first pond. There's tons of fish in there. I catch every single fish in the pond. And you know what that does? Nothing, all right? It does nothing for me. It wasn't even that fun. The mechanic to catch the fish is honestly a little stressful, especially when you're trying to catch 20 of these fish in the pond. And sure, I have unlimited cooking resources for fish, I guess. But let me tell you, not as hyped as they were making it sound.
That's fair. I would say I put it on this list because I think that the cooking mechanic in Sea of Stars is very cool and compelling, and the fishing kind of feeds directly into that in a way. In terms of a literal gameplay loop, I don't think it hangs with our other two nominees. So I do think this is a Dredge versus Dave the Diver showdown. But I wanted to give it a shout out as a game that had fishing that I enjoyed this year. So
and I won't rain on your parade. I'll let you have that. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
No, that's fair. It's not going to win, but shout out Sea of Stars. It'll come back in other categories. I feel like I put this one for fun because I think earlier in the year when we did our game of the year so far, we were what is the consensus between Dredge versus Dave the Diver? But I think we may have already covered it when we had Dredge versus Dave the Diver for gameplay loop.
Yep.
Claire, you look like you're making a serious point. Hit us with it. Hit us with the truth.
Here's the thing. If we're talking about the fishing specifically, you're not really fishing in Dave the Diver. You're just swimming around and slaughtering fish with a gun.
She's right. I was gonna say the same thing.
Shoot, that's
so
pretty good.
I think Dredge has to win by default. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with her.
I love also
Dredge,
with her,
so I'm not going to complain.
Did Luke make this category just so Dredge could beat Dave the Diver in something? We will never know.
To be honest, I really didn't see this happening, and I thought we were just going to give it to Dave. But I love Dredge.
Sure,
I'm down to award it.
Dredge, no runners.
When you're talking about fishing specifically, I really do feel like a fisherman in Dredge where I'm like throwing out the little cages to catch my lobster, and I'm switching out the rods and all that stuff to catch the specific, coastal versus volcanic fish. I feel like Dredge nails that aspect. Dave the Diver, yeah, I'm just murdering, man.
I also, at least for me personally, I felt more compelled to catch different types of fish and explore in Dredge because I found like the UI of your like encyclopedia book really cool as you're filling it out and finding stuff and uncovering things. Whereas I only felt compelled in Dave to really branch out if they were like, it's tuna season, it's tuna special, you got to go out and get your tuna or your squid or your jellyfish or whatever it was. And I think that's a unique twist because of the restaurant angle, but I didn't on its own feel like as compelled to fill out that Pokédex, so to speak, of fish. Okay, are we giving it to Dredge? Best Fishin'.
Best
Let's
Dredge.
go.
I guess by default, runner-up, Dave the Diver.
No, by default, no runners up.
No runners up for that one.
I'm kind of cool with no runners up.
I think let's go no runners up for that one. We're going to move on from that one to a fan favorite category. Jacob, take it away.
Hi, this is the Business Boys 2023 Bit of Bad Business. This is a category where we recognize bad things that happen in the video game industry. We're a positive podcast, and this award show is here to represent the best in gaming. But this is the category where we don't do that, and we say, hey, video game industry, do better. And so the 4 things that we have here are gaming layoffs. I've numbered a few of them here. Epic laid off 830, EA 780, Amazon 180, Bungie, Ubisoft 124, 343 Industries laid off 95, BioWare laid off 50, Naughty Dog laid off 25. This was the best year for video games ever, except for the people. And then the other 3, we have Unity. Just everything that happened there at Unity, which I can give a small, brief summation of what happened there. It was bad. And just a reminder, John Riccitiello, who is no longer the CEO of Unity, once said, and this is, I believe, a direct quote, he was the one that launched loot boxes at EA when he was CEO, and said, games without monetization in mind are fucking idiots. I believe that's a direct quote. So we'll just leave that there for now. And then the other 2 are Charles Martinet no longer being the voice of Mario, but also the new voice actor Kevin Afghani not being celebrated, and the PS5 Slim cost savings as marketing. I think there's a clear winner here, but I want to know if we should dive in maybe a little bit on the Unity stuff. Do you guys remember everything that happened?
It's real dumb. Yeah,
it is.
You
real
can
dumb.
summarize it, or I can't. But like, just such a not well thought out mess that, if executed as announced, would have totally screwed over developers, would have fucked up the economy of the indie dev scene in such a major way, and just as like, it doesn't even make sense. Unity, I think, was a upstanding, well-liked engine, and
up to
subsequently
50% of the industry was using that engine in 2020.
Yeah, and guess what engine new dev studios are not going to use?
Unity.
Even if, like they just, it was such a nosedive for the industry, and just watching it unfold was, for me, it is bad business, but for me, it's like dumbest thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's something else on this list that for me is like legitimately bad practice, evil, corporation, awful vibes.
And look, I understand how things like this happen. And sorry to bring up my favorite topic that I bring up in this show.
No,
but,
it's
inflation.
Debt. Hey, guess what? They weren't making a profit. Debt is no longer cheap. So what they said is, hey, we need to turn the crank and make a profit finally. So in their mind, they were like, hey, why don't we just make every time that you download a game and install a game, there's a fee. Every time you install a demo that uses our engine, there's a fee. And hey, like when someone actually downloads off Game Pass, where you probably get a fixed amount of income for being on a service like Game Pass, there's a fee. So that could be weaponized. Like they didn't even think of like, oh, that could actually be weaponized to like bankrupt developers. They have since like gone back and retread a lot of this. But like to me, the damage is done. And the thing that I saw a lot in our spaces was developers being like, hey, we just can't use Unity for our next projects because like, sure, they went back on a lot of this, but who says, now there's I believe it's Silver Lake Capital, like basically put in a CEO that is from outside of the company to run the company, who says 5 years from now they don't do the same thing, right? So I've seen a lot of, I think, is it Pardot as being the like number one engine people are now going to, that like this is a decision that will not probably pay dividends or like hurt the company this year, but 5 years from now, will there be 50% of the industry that's using Unity? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the thing about this is like the lack of trust, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. I don't think Unity came out of the gate with this plan to be super malicious and to hurt indie devs or anything like that. I think they probably just looked at their metrics and said, okay, our biggest user is this X billion-dollar company. How do we take a portion of this so that we can increase our profits? And just completely missed the ball on the smaller market, which they probably, whoever is making this decisions at the high level, probably doesn't really factor in the smaller market. And they probably were like, oh yeah, like maybe this could happen, but we're not targeting these people, so they don't need to worry about it. And once you put that information out, then it's just a matter of like all of the loudest voices bring up their edge cases or whatever. And basically it's just the Unity PR team trying to, speak for the whole company when there really hasn't been any decisions made or any, edge cases or contingencies made for those specific scenarios. So basically this oversight from whoever signed off on the final plan for Unity basically, dug themselves a big grave here. So I have hope that Unity stays reasonable for devs that continue to work on the platform. But I mean, I really don't understand how this could be looked over so many times and like somebody didn't have, backup plans in place to answer a lot of these questions. So very unfortunate. I'm sure that the people at Unity who work on the engine and stuff, had nothing to do with this, and I'm sad that their name got dragged through the mud and everything. But
totally.
what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing over there?
Well, and I remember the other layer to that, because they're based here in SF, and they had to shut down the office after all of this went down, and the employees were getting death threats, and just software developers doing their freaking jobs. They didn't make this call, and so that's another layer to it that also just sucked. So I'm glad you brought that up, Joseph, as well.
Yeah, Joseph, that's a great point to remember, that they were like trying to target free-to-play games that essentially weren't paying Unity what they deemed their fair share. This was for Genshin. This was not for Slay the Spire, So
right,
it's really too bad. I will quickly go through the other two, and then we can just, I think, decide on a winner, unless there's anything else you guys want to jump on or add. Charles Martinet has been the voice of Mario for many, many years, and I feel like at the start it was literally just a press release being like, hey, Charles Martinet is not the new voice actor, and they didn't even bother saying who the new one was until the game literally came out. And then there was this weird video of I think they had said hey, we're going to film a video with him and Mr. Miyamoto, when they can be together. But I think, Charles is essentially I would say the most prominent game voice actor in the business, and for them to sort of just push him off into a corner, it just felt really awful. And to not celebrate Kevin Afghani and the other voice actors that are now part of Super Mario Wonder, I think kind of sucked too.
Yeah,
fair.
Nintendo is kind of a weird company where I feel like they operate as almost like a hive mind, where everyone that does things for Nintendo is Nintendo to some extent at this point. I think notable case of this was, the Zelda or Nintendo Orchestra or whatever they called it for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was nominated for best soundtrack instead of whoever was the actual composer and team there. So I get why they do it. It's like, hey, we are Nintendo. We don't want anyone to be bigger than the product itself or the team itself. But it is also very weird. I think obviously Charles Martinet became popular before Nintendo really adopted this ideology. And I mean, hopefully he's still around as this Nintendo ambassador that he's planning to be. I'm sure they will have him on retainer, ideally doing random gigs. But yeah, this was definitely one of the weirder stories of the year.
Feels like a missed opportunity too to have not had either like a Nintendo Direct or something happen at their Nintendo Live event where it was like, here's Charles, here's Miyamoto, here's Kevin, the new voice actor, and just like have a nice like passing of the torch moment.
Mm-hmm.
Would have gotten them some wholesome points and been a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe we'll still get that at some point, but it's odd. It's just, I mean, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I feel like they definitely do not want that passing of the torch moment. I think they kind of want Charles Martinet to stay who he is, and then going forward, Mario is just Mario.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if and I don't necessarily blame them for that, because I do feel like more and more in this day and age, you have someone as the face of your brand, and then that person kind of screws up and it takes the brand down with them. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's fair.
PS5 Slim. They are making a smaller model. They basically like made it this big thing of like, oh, you're getting a smaller model. It's great. Hey, you can remove the disk drive. When really, like, they're probably making more money on these consoles, and they're not passing on any of the savings. And look, they can do whatever they want. They usually sell these at a loss. It takes them years to sell them at a profit. But we are out of supply constraint now. These are readily available, and like, just call it what it is. Just like, hey, you're gonna see new PS5s on the shelf. They're a little smaller. They got a removable disk drive. That's it. In some territories, the price actually went up for PS5. So in Canada, it's actually more expensive now for a PS5. And I get what they're doing. They're probably like bundling a game now to say like you're getting more value from the same box price. But just, this doesn't deserve fanfare. It's like you made a smaller console so you can make more money. Just stop.
It also messes with my PS5 obsession, the faceplates.
Yeah.
I like the colored faceplates. I have the Spider-Man ones. They look awesome.
Oh God, what are they doing with that?
You got this other slim thing. What are they doing with that? Exactly.
Yeah.
What are they doing with that? It's dumb.
See.
Yeah.
Are they going to make new faceplates you then have to buy different ones? Probably. But it is bad business.
Yeah.
Certainly bad for consumer business, at least.
But look, there's one that I think we cannot deny. It's just that, there were thousands of people that were laid off from the game industry, despite, this year having the highest revenue year of any game year in history, the most games with critical acclaim in history. And you're just going to let people go, especially people in prominent positions, like in community leadership positions. It's just bad, and we should stop doing it. Yeah. So that's the winner in my mind, unless you guys have something else.
I think with a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even a...
Cool.
Over 10,000 people. Like, you can't...
Some would say the loser. The loser, not the winner.
The loser. Yeah. Thank you. That's better.
Treating people as expendable, exploiting them for profit, and then getting rid of them as soon as you don't need them anymore. Like...
Guys, listen, AI will save us. That's what Square Enix is promising. So, like, we're good. We don't need people. We have AI.
No.
Yeah, sure, AI.
Save that for next year's bad business. Oh my God.
It's just plagiarism.
It's just...
It's a robot that steals other people's work and doesn't give them money or credit. So
yeah, shout out to the devs this year that worked really hard, that didn't get to have their moment in the spotlight as a result of losing their jobs shortly after the fact.
Runners up are
to say the
all.
least.
Yeah.
I think the runner-up for me would be Unity, but because Charles Martinet and the PS5 are bad business, but they feel like on different levels of like impact.
Good with me.
Personally, are we good? Okay, sticking with that. All right, let's jump to best multiplayer. Our nominees are Baccarat, Disney Illusion Island, Fortnite, Super Mario Wonder, Pikmin 4, and AEW Fight Forever. I think right off the bat, I feel like we can cut Mario unless we're talking about the asynchronous stuff.
Yeah, agree. It shouldn't be here.
I don't know. I put it, I think, just to make the point, because I think people zoomed out. If you didn't play it co-op, you'd be like, why isn't it listed? Because on paper, you would assume it's great. And it is a great game, but I don't think it's a great couch co-op game, unfortunately.
Yeah, if it was just online multiplayer, I think it'd be on this list.
Agreed. Pikmin 4, I didn't mess with multiplayer, but I've heard good things. Did you play it, Jacob? Any of the multiplayer stuff?
I did not. But it's just done Dandori battles in multiplayer, correct?
I believe so, yeah. Okay. It's cool. They're really fun, but might not hang.
Dandori battle you.
Let's do it. That'd be fun. Claire and I played Disney Illusion Island.
It was fun.
Really delightful, approachable. It is kind of baby's first Metroidvania, but it's not for a lack of quality. I think the cutscenes are very well animated. They get voice actors. It feels like an awesome Disney Saturday morning cartoon that you're running around and exploring, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. We've talked about Baccarat.
I think Baccarat is probably like my front runner for this category. Fortnite is always great, and I do think they had a big year with their updates, with the Lego mode, with Fortnite Festival, with the Harmonix team finally making a rhythm game within Fortnite. I was Alan Wake rocking out as Olivia Rodrigo on the drums. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, you can't beat that. There's something to that. And the fact that we could all squad up together and do that together, I think is very amusing. Jacob, did you put AEW?
I did. I put the AEW Fight Forever game, which I think this game is a good first attempt for the Ukes team to make an AEW game, and I appreciate how much they're supporting the game post-release. In putting new modes, like they put a Stadium Stampede mode in where you like fight in a giant stadium and you like collect power-ups in the stadium and whatever. I think the multiplayer is sort of bare bones, where you can't do the full suite of matches that you would expect. But this really harkens back to like the great N64 era wrestling games, and so I just want to shout this out as like, this is little bare bones, but what's there is fun, and I am very much looking forward to the second game that they eventually come out with for AEW.
Right on.
Sounds cool.
I will also throw out, I don't think this strengthens the game's argument, but while we were playing Disney Illusion Island, I did discover that I do a pretty good Mickey Mouse impression.
Okay, we need to hear it then.
Okay. Everyone close your eyes, clear the mechanism.
Picture Mickey Mouse.
Picture Mickey Mouse. Oh boy! Come on, Pluto!
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
This morning you were like, we're going to Disneyland in the other room, and I was like, we're going to Disneyland.
It's Game of the Year!
Does it win this category just for that?
I personally would fight pretty hard for Baccarat to take this, because I think it's doing some unique stuff, playing with perspective. There's no other way to play the game. Like, it is a co-op multiplayer game that requires communication at its core. So I think
it's new, doing new things, but it's also doing them well, and it's solid and polished. I think that's
how we feeling about Baccarat taking it.
I'm cool with Baccarat. Fortnite as one of the runner-ups, because it still continues to be just like, I think the most solid.
It's great.
Every
it's still
season is solid.
Yep. I'm cool with that.
In a year where a bunch of servers got shut down for different games that service online games, this one is just going stronger and stronger every time. That means something.
You can't deny it. Even though the team there had massive layoffs, but then launched one of their biggest content updates of all time. It's just conflicting, but very good game. Okay, so we're thinking Baccarat overall, Fortnite runner-up. Do we need a third runner-up? Or a second runner-up, rather?
Unless you want to fight for Disney Illusion Island, I think that those two are good.
It's good. I think if you want a co-op game to play with young kids or folks who enjoy Disney, it's solid, but I don't think it's on the same level as these other two.
I think it's a nominee.
Yeah.
It's a solid nominee.
Cool. Yeah. Sweet. All right. Here's a big one, everybody. Best Indie. Our nominees are Cocoon, Dredge, Venba, Slay the Princess, Sea of Stars, World of Horror, Terra Nil, Planet of Lana, Jusant, Chants of Sonar. Dear God.
So long list.
Dear God.
All right.
Joseph, kick us off. Get us in the right headspace.
With the respect to time, all right, we still got a lot of games here. I want to focus in on the games that we truly think are our indies of the year. And I will start it off with Cocoon. I've been a champion of Cocoon from the very beginning, even before it came out, and I'm glad the game did not prove me wrong. Very polished, very unique gameplay mechanism, perfect length, didn't overstay its welcome, and it made me feel all sorts of things, not through story, but just through the gameplay itself, and like showing me all the different things I could do as a player that I had no idea I would have been able to do at the beginning of the game. So really enjoy Cocoon, and for a studio's first project, I think it was stellar. So Cocoon is probably my lead front runner for that.
Heck yeah. Claire, how about for you?
For me, I think I would take out Planet of Lana. I love Planet of Lana. I think it deserves a nomination, but I don't think its gameplay, especially the platforming, is tight enough to hang with some of these other titles. I also think for me, Terra Nil, loved it. Little short. So for me, it would be between Jusant and Venba. We haven't talked about Venba yet. Venba is a really great, very succinct experience. That is what it really shines in is the narrative and the representation of depicting a different story than what most games are about. But the gameplay itself was a little bit on the lighter side. So for me, of these and of what I've played, it would be Jusant.
Right on. I think my front runner for this category would be Venba. I was really blown away with that one. I was anticipating it, and I think it lived up to my expectations. Like you said, it is concise. Its representation is amazing. The art direction is really awesome. The music is phenomenal. The cooking mini games are fun and interesting. It's the only game this year that I felt like I could smell the smells of the food in the game, which like I think is pretty cool that like it invoked senses in a very compelling way, and it told a really engaging story that was really heartfelt and emotional. To bring up emotion, I cried at the end of Jusant,
Crying
or
is
not
good.
Jusant, at Venba. I felt all the feels. It's very good. I think my runner up would, I think, either Sea of Stars or Chance of Snar, but also Cocoon. It's tough. I think actually probably I'd align with Joseph with Cocoon, because I adored that game. I thought the puzzle solving was really, really well done. And in terms of like singular mechanics that are awesome and cool, going into the worlds in Cocoon is probably one of the coolest things this year.
Surprised that we didn't put that up in gameplay loop.
Underrated. That's fair. That one's
really
tough because
me
it's
as
like
a loop.
it's a mechanic. Yeah, it's like a singular thing, but it's very cool.
Can I talk about Slay the Princess a little bit?
Please do.
So Black Tabby Games, this is a sort of, I don't call it a point and click adventure game, is sort of diminishing what the game does, but I think it's like a game with a cool hook that's sort of framed as a PC style adventure game that has some like twisting and narrative that goes in different places. I think the game shows you its trick once, and like they can only show you the trick once. But I think the thing that I appreciate is just how the story branches, and like every playthrough is sort of your playthrough. I played through it and I said, I know there are other things that I could see, explore in this, but like that was my playthrough and that will forever be my playthrough. And I think I'm good with that. I think I added later in our nominations character performances from Nicole Goodnight as the princess and Jonathan Sims as the narrator. I think Jonathan Sims especially does some wild stuff in his actual performance. I don't think it's one of my like favorite indies of the year, but I think like it 100% deserves to be here. You should play it. And I weirdly, like, it was the thing at PAX East, I think everyone was talking about it. But I feel like it sort of came out and like not enough people were talking about it still. So Slay the Princess is super dope. But for me, like if I had to pick my two, it's probably Dredge 1, Cocoon 2.
Fair. So I'm getting the through line
of Cocoon.
Cocoon's
but
dope.
also Claire and I had Venba up there as well. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Sea of Stars. I know we're trying to be time conscious, but I don't usually dabble with JRPGs. It's not my preferred genre, but I think this game is absolutely delightful, even for someone that didn't grow up playing games like Chrono Trigger and the like. I think the art style is beautiful, the music is phenomenal, I think the narrative is really compelling, and it's such a good vibe of a game, and I think they do interesting things with the combat where you can block turn-based attacks and parry, and I think that's pretty dope. Um, Definitely one of my favorite indies of the year for sure, but I think I would go Cocoon or Venba over it personally.
Yeah, and quickly, I might not talk about Sea of Stars for the rest of this episode. So
Sure.
I
That's why I was like, I think
you.
I need to talk about it now too. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think especially once you complete the game, I think you start to feel a lot of things. And start to appreciate like the journey a lot of the characters went on, which is awesome. My only knock against it was I felt like it was a tad too long, and the combat mechanic wasn't really selling me halfway through the game. Like
That's
it was
fair.
fun at first, but then it started to wear off after I was doing the same thing over and over again. So that's my only knock against it, but I really did love all the characters and like the lore and all that stuff.
For sure. I also don't want to undersell Dredge in this category because it's very
Dredge is
high
good.
up my list as well.
Dredge is good.
I'm feeling consensus overall winner Cocoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Overall Cocoon. Okay.
Do
Now
we
we
all
just got to
wanna
decide
say
runners
our
up.
runner up and see if we have overlap?
I think
Say
we
what
have
our-
overlap.
I would say Venba personally would be my next runner up.
I would say Venba or Slay the Princess because I played the demo like 40 times. So
Oh,
no, it wasn't that. I think it was closer to like 10, but still, it was a lot.
damn.
It was a fair bit.
I played a lot. I played basically every option I think you could get. So
I think Dredge Venba for me.
Okay. Joseph?
Mine will probably be like either Chance or Sea of Stars.
Okay.
But I mean, I didn't play Vim, but I like Dredge a lot as well. So Dredge is up there as well. So
Okay.
I'm not too picky.
I think numerically, like Venba would win based on the number of players in Venba.
I think
so.
we'll do Venba runner up. Dredge runner up, it sounds like.
2 people said Dredge.
Do it.
Doing it. Okay. Sorry, I should be more decisive. I know I'm fixing it. We can Okay. I can silently do things on the dock, and the audio listeners can be none the wiser. The video listeners get a little treat of like, oh, we messed up the format. Let's jump to Best Music. This one's another pretty stacked category. Our nominees are Alan Wake 2, Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, Hi-Fi Rush, Venba, Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Sea of Stars, Space for the Unbound, Final Fantasy XVI, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario RPG Remake, Planet of Lana, and Baldur's Gate 3. Just shout out to all these nominees. Like, you're all winners in my book, because these are all very, very good.
Yes.
Yep.
Since we have a lot of nominees, do we want to... Let's talk about maybe the couple that we haven't touched on at all during this episode, and then we can kind of lock in some, like, front runners for ourselves.
Sure.
Okay. I'll quickly talk about Dead Cells. I think I'm the only one here that's played the Castlevania DLC. Dead Cells is one of my favorite games of all time, so when this DLC was announced, I was very excited. I think it's incredibly well done. The aesthetic, the atmosphere, the combat, the attention to detail for pulling things from Castlevania lore into Dead Cells, I think works very well. But I think the best part about the game is the music. It just slaps. It's really fun. It's really high energy, high octane. And every time I got to that area in a given run, I was always really excited to hear the music, to have the combat scenarios. And I think it's really well done. I don't think it hangs with some of these larger titles, but it's very cool. Claire, do you want to chat about some of the ones you threw on?
The only one I actually put on here was Planet of Lana. And as soon as I played this game, I was like, this is going to be my best music for the year. Not even necessarily because it has like the most incredible score, which I do love the score, but because of how integral music is to the narrative and the gameplay. So, without spoiling too much, as you are going through the world and as I said before, trying to get to your sister, defeat the robots, whatever, it becomes clear that music is an important part of the way the world works, and you actually use musical tones to control aspects of the world and solve puzzles, and that like main theme, and it's very piano heavy music, but that main theme at the very beginning ends up coming back in really interesting ways with the narrative. And there's also this really cool musical moment where you are sailing across the sea, and this like song, like bespoke song for the game plays, and that's a really cool moment too. So music really important and really great in Planet of Lana. So I will shout that out. But I also, of the games on this list, really great musical moments also in Final Fantasy 16 and in Venba and in Hi-Fi Rush for sure. So
Let me give you some quick hits here. Space for the Unbound does like sort of a lo-fi chill beats version of the soundtrack that I think is really great, is almost my favorite part of that game. The Super Mario RPG remake I've not played, but my partner and twin brother are playing through it. And Yoko Shimomura, who did the music, like recreated the soundtrack, and it just like it bangs just as hard as it did on the Super Nintendo. It's like, it harkens back to the Super Nintendo-esque like square soundtracks, like your Chrono Triggers, but like with a
Nice.
Mario twist of lime to it. And then Final Fantasy 16 is just like orchestral and big, especially during those icon battles, and during some of the big ones there's like choruses that come in, and it's just like it's so dope, but it's like it's the most classic version of like an RPG soundtrack just done to 11.
Heck yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
That I think the music is my favorite part of that game, so it definitely deserves the shout out here. Joseph, how are you feeling?
Yeah, my pick is Final Fantasy 16. I think
Interesting.
just like you
Okay.
said, that was my favorite part of the game. Like I am a big sucker for like the big orchestral symphonies, and Final Fantasy 16 just absolutely kills, especially with that battle theme.
Yeah.
Shout out to Baldur's Gate 3 as well, another orchestral soundtrack. The main song is Down by the River, and a lot of the songs in the game kind of remix that into other. I don't know the musical technical terms. Maybe if Claire played the game, she could do a better job explaining it to me. But
The
basically,
motif, maybe.
Ooh.
they have the motif in there. Exactly. There's that Down by the River motif, and I just love it. And the moments where it comes in are super epic as well. And the last one I want to shout out, Tears of the Kingdom, like that song that plays in that trailer, that launch right before the game came out, is one of my favorite songs of the year for games. But sadly, you don't really hear that song in the game until maybe like the very end of the game. So a lot of the music that I love from Tears of the Kingdom is awkwardly absent from the game itself in a lot of points, and I can't find a soundtrack online, an official soundtrack, because Nintendo keeps those things close to chest. So I'm kind of bummed about that, but
Fair.
that music is sick.
It's very good. Can I hop on my soapbox real quick and talk about Alan Wake 2?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Alan Wake 2 is my pick for this category. It's my favorite music of the year. I think for folks that haven't played it, the way they make music so integral to the narrative of the game, between chapters of the game, they play original songs that the team wrote based off of poetry that Sam Lake wrote that directly ties into the story. And these range genres, like there's somber ballads, there's like hip hop tracks, there's like hard rock songs played by Poets of the Fall. Like it's wild. It's the variety is insane, the quality bar is insane, but they come those interlude songs between chapters, I think, are so representative of the game, because you have these amazing story moments and these things that you're like contemplating and you're thinking about what happens and you're theorizing what's happening in the story. And the song is like actively on that journey with you as the player. And it's so interesting, and it feeds into the multimedia experience of Alan Wake 2 in such a big way that, like, I think there are very few games on this list, maybe Hi-Fi Rush I would throw out there, that are like as integral to the core experience. Whereas, like, I will definitely agree that like Final Fantasy 16, phenomenal orchestral score. Baldur's Gate, I haven't played, albeit Tears of the Kingdom, similar thing of like amazing music on itself, but the way Alan Wake integrates into the game, I just think is unlike anything I've ever played. So I would make a strong case for that one to be in the conversation for sure. I will also quickly shout out Goodbye Volcano High. Really wonderful. The game's based around your character forming a band in high school. It strikes that vibe perfectly. It's really great music. I listen to it outside of the game, which I think speaks to the quality. Very cool. More passionate about Alan Wake personally.
Did we mention Hi-Fi Rush?
I don't think so.
Not only do they have great original music, but also I think the only game on this list that does a great job at using licensed music. I think there's 2 9 Inch Nails songs on this soundtrack, and they're just used in a great way. So shout out to
It opens with the Black Keys, which I was like, oh shit, yeah. I think this is a game I will enjoy, and it definitely was.
I sometimes miss like the era of the sports title that would have like bangers that you would remember and associate with that game, like I Hear You Calling from GOB on the NHL games, or like soundtracks from Tony Hawk or Need for Speed. Like, we just aren't in that era anymore, and I think
that
it's
licensed era.
Yeah, it's because like all the music ever in the world is at our fingertips, and like I think Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal do a great job at like surfacing tracks for us, but the discovery you get from tracks in video games, I think, is a bygone era. But shout out to Hi-Fi Rush for their use of licensed music.
Heck yeah. Didn't talk about it. Chia is also very good.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite part of that game. It just sets the tone so wonderfully. Music is a gameplay mechanic. You can play your ukulele, and then I think it's the only game where your character actively plays music in the game, and it alters the world around you, because you can literally change the time of day by striking a chord on the ukulele, which is pretty dope. Venba is also amazing. Like, these are all really good. Mm-hmm. I think, why don't we go around the horn and each give our number one and our runner-up choice and see where we're aligning currently. I'll kick things off. I think mine would be Alan Wake with a runner-up to Chia for me. Claire, how about you?
Planet of Lana and Venba, I could be persuaded for Final Fantasy 16.
Okay. Jacob?
Final Fantasy 16 and Chia, actually.
Okay. Joseph?
Final Fantasy 16 and Baldur's Gate.
Hell yeah.
Okay. 3. Okay. So
it sounds like Final Fantasy 16.
I think Final Fantasy has to take it based on, because you said you could be persuaded, and then we have 2 votes for number 1. Okay. Locking in Final Fantasy 16.
And maybe
it's very good. I respect it.
4 runners up.
I think Luke and I's runner-up is the same.
Same?
Because our runner-up is Chia, so that feels solid.
No, I'm saying, but you could make Alan Wake your runner-up.
Ooh.
We could each just have one on the list.
Yeah, why not? Party on. So we got Alan Wake, we got Chia, we got Baldur's Gate, and Venba for you, Claire?
Planet of Lana.
Planet of Lana would be... Oh, because that was your number 1?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so for best music, our overall winner is Final Fantasy 16, with runners-up going to Chia, Alan Wake 2, and Planet of Lana.
And didn't we say Baldur's Gate 3?
And Baldur's Gate, which I didn't highlight yet, but I am doing it right now.
Yeah, last year we had 4 picks for this, so like I think it's very telling that we picked 5 here.
I think that's fair, and like all of these games are really good. Like, if you want to make a playlist of all of these, like that's a All right, well, thanks so much everyone for listening to this week's episode. This is part 1. We are coming back to finish out the categories on our next episode. Thank you, Joseph, Jacob, Claire, for joining on this journey. We are still friends and we haven't offended each other, so we're doing a great job so far. Jacob, question.
Should we just go through each of the categories really quickly again for the audio listener? Let's
do it. Love that idea. So today we kicked things off with Best Gameplay Loop. Our overall winner going to the Fishing and Restaurant Management in Dave the Diver, with runners-up Reclaiming the Wasteland in Terra Nil and Discovering the Language in Chants of Sonar. Next up, we had Most Pleasant Surprise, going to Hi-Fi Rush, with runners-up Dave the Diver and RoboCop Rogue City. We then had Most Underrated Game, going to Baccarat, with runners-up World of Horror and Chants of Sonar. Best Little Buddy, Best Creature Companion, going to Mui from Planet of Lana, with runners-up Torgal and Scratch. Dredge took Best Fishing by a landslide. Business Boys 2023 Bit of Bad Business went to Gaming Layoffs, with the runner-up being Unity as a whole. Best Multiplayer was Baccarat, with runner-up Fortnite. Best Indie went to Cocoon, with runners-up Dredge and Venba. And we closed things out with Best Music going to Final Fantasy XVI, with runners-up Alan Wake 2, Chia, Planet of Lana, and Baldur's Gate 3. On the next episode, you can look forward to Best Visuals Technical, Best Visuals Art Direction, Best Character Performance, Best Narrative, and Best Moment. And then we will crown our overall Game of the Year with our secret weighted list that no one except for me knows, and it's very exciting and fun, and you're gonna want to tune in to find out, because it gets spicy.
Luke, do you want to give a tease of a fact that you told me about the list itself?
I can give some fun facts. So I will say, on our top 10 lists, there isn't one single game that all 4 of us have on our top 10 lists.
Ooh.
There is a 3-way tie for number 10 on our weighted top 10 list. There is a 2-way tie for our number 3 on our top 10 list. And there were 2 games that only were selected by one person for their top 10 list that made our weighted list, because they were so high on the 2 people's respective personal lists.
Damn.
So the variety and the scope of our shared list is really, really cool. We're doing it a little differently with the weighted list this year. Instead of kind of arguing back and forth what the 10 is, we're doing it a little more scientifically to see how everything nets out. And it's a really, really cool list. It's a really fun amalgamation of all of our tastes and interests. And I'll unveil that at the end of the next episode. Closing out our Game of the Year. We're probably the last Game of the Year podcast you're listening to, but it's a good year for video games, a bad year for game devs that we had to celebrate appropriately, so we needed multiple hours to do it. But thanks for listening through it with us. For now, we are setting our status to away. Until next time, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things for us if you're enjoying the show. Give us a follow at Crossplay Convos on Twitter. Send this podcast to a friend, because that's how people hear about podcasts. And give us a review on a podcast platform of choice, because it really, really helps. And with that, Happy New Year, everyone, and we'll see you next time.